Oh, we're
Here.
live.
Oh, excellent.
I love it.
There we are. Honest pint.
I'm Lauren from our DU on Stage, and I'm very excited to be a fly on the wall and watch this interview. Do you guys want to introduce yourself? And I'm going to turn my camera off and let you guys chat.
Thanks, Lauren.
I'm Susannah Hough, and I'm an actor and a producer and a director here in Raleigh, North Carolina.
And I'm Ray Dooley. I'm an actor and teacher, work with Playmakers Rep, and here in North Carolina.
Yay. Ray, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'm so excited to talk with you, and I hope you're doing well and staying healthy through all of this our turmoil we're going through. But for an hour, we can take some time tonight and just kind of shoot the breeze and have a good time and just learn a little bit more about you. So for people joining us now and who'll watch it later, I just want to give a brief overview of your career, which is long and storied. But anyway, I'll do the short version. All right, so you graduated from Hamilton College in New York.
That's right.
That was in 1975, yeah?
Yeah.
And you have 2 degrees, English and theater.
That's right.
And then after that, you auditioned and were accepted to the American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco into the MFA program.
Yep.
Woo! ACT.
Right.
You spent 15 years as a freelance actor. And then in 1989, you went to Playmakers, right? You kind of bounced around a little bit, and you're going to tell us all about that later.
Okay.
And came to Chapel Hill from Alabama Shakes, and you never left. How about that? 30 years.
That's right.
I can't believe it. You were head of the MFA acting program since 2005, yeah, 2005. But
Right.
You're now phasing out in retirement.
That's right.
Your official retirement will be June of 2022.
That's right.
Sad face. Ray, you bring more than 40 years of superlative professional acting across all platforms: film, TV, the stage, national, international. It's incredible. You specialize in Shakespeare, Moliere, and Chekhov, as we know. And you won an Obie Award in 1982, yeah?
That's correct.
Distinguished performance in Peer Gynt.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. And you also worked with Nicole Williamson at Circle in the Square on a production of Macbeth, and we want to hear more about that.
That's right.
All right, so you've been at every major regional theater company in the country. We'll name them all: Yale Rep, Hartford Stage, Seattle Rep, the Huntington, the Alliance, the Folger, Center Stage in Baltimore, the American Shakespeare Theater in Stratford, and then in Canada, the Citadel Theater,
Yep.
and in Vienna at the English Theater. And I didn't know this before, but you were the first Father Flynn in the European premiere of Doubt.
That's right. It was the European premiere. Yeah.
That's amazing. And all the work on soap operas too. So we'll talk about that later. All right, so let's dive in. Tell us
Sure.
where you were born.
I was born on Long Island, outside New York City.
Yeah.
And it was a really excellent place to grow up. I was thinking about this. One of the great advantages that influenced what I did later was we would get on the bus and we would be bused into New York to see theater, to see the New York Philharmonic at Avery Fisher Hall.
Mm-hmm.
We went up to the American Shakespeare Theater in Stratford, Connecticut. Remember a wonderful production of Othello with Moses Gunn as Othello, Lee Richardson as Iago. And those field trips really stuck with me. And we have the opportunity at Playmakers to do our student matinee. I know every time we go out there at 10:30 that we're changing somebody's life. And so, yeah.
You are. That's right. Yeah. Were your parents artists? I mean, like, what did you have art in the home growing up? What were your influences?
I would say not really. My dad worked for IBM, and my mom worked for Doubleday and Company. We were a 3-generation household. My grandparents lived with us as well. And my brother also, he went to Rensselaer Polytechnic and has a math degree, MBA, and worked for IBM and then WorldCom and that. So I'm not sure exactly where all that came from. I'm sure it's hidden back in the family somewhere.
That's interesting. And so when you were a little boy, what were you doing? Like, were you drawing and painting, and or like, you know, what creative outlets did you have?
I was an athlete.
Okay.
Yeah, baseball player. A little bit of football, some basketball. Got to about the junior varsity level in high school, and then became interested in dramatic art, in the theater. They picked the 4. I was one of the larger fellows in the class, and there was a production of The Mikado that we were doing, and the 4 largest guys were asked to carry in the Mikado on his sedan chair for the production. And that was my first theatrical experience. And it was, you know, a lot of fun backstage and on stage.
This is high school?
This would have been the 9th grade, the end of middle school, junior high, as we used to call it. And then beginning in the 10th grade, moving up to the high school, I got involved with the drama club and started doing plays. And we had excellent drama teachers at high school. Shout out to Herrick's High School on Long Island.
Was that a public school?
It was, yeah.
And so was that your aha moment? Was that like, oh, this is for me. This is what I want to do now?
I think so, although I will say, as you mentioned, I was a double major at Hamilton in English and what we call theater and drama was the actual degree. And I have always loved literature, and it was in many ways my first love. And for me, theater and acting has been a way to live inside great literature.
Right.
And that's been a driving and sustaining force in the work that I've done. And the reason I think that I've gravitated to the classics. So both theater and literature.
Sure. And so did you have many performance opportunities when you were in college? Kind of like what solidified it for you that you wanted to make a life in the theater and go on and get your master's?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was Hamilton is still a small liberal arts college in upstate New York. Then it was 2 schools, Hamilton and across the road, Kirkland was the women's college across the road. They eventually merged into one. We had 3 majors in my class. So the great thing about that was we got to do everything. And one of my colleagues, Trevor Drake, went on to get his master's in directing at Carnegie. And my dear friend Margaret Clank actually came with me then to ACT, also was a student there, and then she went on to play Edwina Lewis for many years on One Life to Live in New York. So at Hamilton, it was a very small department, and so yes, got to do lots and lots of things: act, direct, design, stage manage, everything.
That's really great because that doesn't always happen, especially in undergraduate programs. You don't get to do it all.
Right.
You know. I didn't in mine, that's for sure. If you were an actor, that was all you did. They didn't want you doing anything else, which I don't agree with, but who asked me? Okay. All right. So then there you were at Hamilton, and it was time to graduate. And
yes, took the train down to New York and auditioned for Alan Fletcher and David Hammond for ACT and was accepted. And in that summer between, I was at the Williamstown Theater Festival in what was known then as the Second Company. amazing. When I look back at the people that were there, Barnett Kellman, the extraordinary director, was one of the two directors. At Ken, I'm forgetting dear Ken's name, he's passed now. But he was at the Long Wharf from a long time. J.O. Sanders, who everybody would know from everything.
Right.
Jay was in the company, and a wonderful company of young actors. And then I got on the plane and flew to San Francisco. And it was, oh, brave new world.
Had you ever been there before?
I never had. No.
Wow. So you just went blind to San Francisco. This is for me. How many people were in your MFA program when you started?
Okay, this now sounds hard to believe, but it was a 3-year program.
Yeah.
In the first year program, there were about 80.
Mm-hmm.
Then that was whittled down in the second year to about 20.
Mm-hmm.
And then about 5 people were asked to stay and join the company. And it was the old Actors Equity Journeyman contract, which is rarely used anymore, but it meant that you were paid, I think, 2/3 salary and could only say a certain number of lines on stage.
Wow.
And I stayed through 2 years. I moved back to New York when the call came asking if I would like to be a journeyman with the company, but I had already moved back to New York.
I see.
So I thanked it was Bill Ball. Who had called.
Yes, Bill Ball.
Yeah, and I thanked him and I said, I'm gonna try my luck here in New York.
Yes, I was there in the era of Bill Ball and Alan Fletcher. Was Laird Williamson there when you were there?
Yes, he was. Ed Hastings, sure.
Ed, yes. And was John Pasqualetti there?
Oh my goodness, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 o'clock. I still remember John's, for those who were not with us, John was at the Pacific Ballet. And so it was ballet every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9 o'clock.
God.
And
I'm having flashbacks.
Oh yes, and I still remember John talking about when one is standing on stage, one leans forward slightly and opens up in order to catch the light. And you know, it's old school, but boy, is he right.
God bless. And I will say, I think you've retained that in your performances, Ray.
Thanks, Susannah.
You know, because and was Frank Ottewell there too when you were there?
He was. And
I can tell you were trained by both of those men when I watched you on stage.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. For those who don't know, Frank was our Alexander teacher and Feldenkrais teacher.
Right.
And we were so fortunate to have those.
I know. I didn't even know at the time how fortunate I was. What did I know? Nothing. I was.
Exactly.
You know. Yeah. So now, did you like living in San Francisco?
Well, yes. Of course, I was living on a very small budget, and
me too.
The first year I lived Post Street, 1 block up, 6 blocks over, in a studio with a Murphy bed that came out of the wall.
I lived on Bush Street.
Okay.
In the Tenderloin. Very bad. It was very, very bad, Ray. It was very, very gross and disgusting. Yeah. But I could walk there. So were you there the whole time? Were you there on Post?
No, I moved over for the second year. I was over in Oakland. And I was on the first bus stop. I would take the bus in the morning. It was they were at our stop, and then it was on the Bay Bridge in.
Yeah.
And at night, I'd walk over to the bus terminal, sometimes late, and catch a bus back to Oakland. Yeah.
Well, people who didn't know what San Francisco was like back in those days. That was brave. All right. And let me ask you one more question.
Sure.
Because inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah. Did
you eat soup every day at Salmagundi?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, we have to explain this. Suzanne. Right next to the theater building was a restaurant called Salmagundi, and for, I believe it was $2.25 when I was there.
Yes.
You would get.
It was like $3 something when I was there. Yeah.
Oh, yes, you see. A bowl of soup, really good soup.
Really good soup.
Very nice salad, and a roll. And you could go back and get a refill on your soup. And
you get a refill on the soup in seconds.
You could. And also at that time, on top of the cigarette machine, to date myself, on top of the cigarette machine was the bottomless cup of coffee for 25 cents.
Yes.
And you buy coffee for 25 cents. And
they were so good to us. They'd let you sit there for hours and they wouldn't kick you out. And we would cheat because two people would go in and one guy would eat the first bowl of soup and go back for seconds, and then the other actor would eat the second bowl of soup.
Totally.
And they knew it, but they didn't bother us. They were so nice.
Exactly so. Yep.
Okay, good. Okay. All right. So I want to know real fast about your MFA at ACT. Did they, like, I don't know if I'm saying this right.
Yeah.
But did you learn through your training there how to break down your own barriers to finding your best performance? Because what I found there was it was finally a place, because I have a BFA from another institution. And I never felt for 1 minute at that other institution that we were allowed to be vulnerable, to be authentic, to just bring who we were, ourselves. And then I found the training at ACT to be exactly opposite. What did you discover about yourself in your MFA training?
I would say that I think, thinking back on it, most of it was technical and skill-based.
At ACT?
At ACT, it depended. I had 5 different acting teachers when I was there.
Right.
And the training was Stanislavski-based, really. That was the language we were speaking, especially through Uta Hagen's work.
Yeah.
But it depended on the teacher. And
it was very technical with speech. Did you find that
it was with dear Ann Lauder, was my speech teacher, and she was excellent. I will forever remember the lower unstressed I at the end of a word when you are hurriedly, for example. But the I would say in terms of the, I don't want to, say methody cliches that one hears about the actor being broken down and then built. Not really. It was not the training. The training was in a certain kind of muscularity, a certain kind of, I was going to say structure, how language fit together, how to pursue an objective or pursue an action. It's other oriented, and that was what I was given a toolbox that, if you will, that stayed with me, and that I only really learned how to use all those tools over the years by actually working and using them.
Yeah.
So unlike a more, terrible cliches, terrible overgeneralization, but methody program or methody way of studying acting, this was much more, I would want to say almost athletic, but muscular, rigorous in that way.
It was physically demanding, I thought.
Very physically demanding, yes.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Did they teach you how to get a job?
Well, there was a famous pyramid lecture, Ed Hastings' pyramid lecture, which Ed started talking about, and everybody who was graduating at the end of the second year, Ed talked about this, in what he called it, the inverted pyramid, that you start down here with the people you know, and you work your way up as you increase the people that you know. Remember, the first thing he said was get a place to live where when you go home, you can relax and feel safe and secure. and then you work out from there. Get more money coming in than you have going out, and start expanding your base of professional acquaintance. So in that way, they did, yes.
Right.
And back in those days, there were only, what, 3, 4, 5, 6 training programs, really?
Yeah.
So I came back to New York feeling pretty confident in what I had to offer. And of course, as with youth, didn't know what I didn't know, and so therefore I wasn't worried about it.
Right. Yeah, that's. Were you on the Geary stage when you were doing your master's?
Oh, absolutely. As a first-year student, you were allowed on the Geary stage, but we saw we saw amazing things. The first show that I saw in my first year, as I was starting there, was Bill Ball's production of Tiny Alice.
Oh, wow.
And it was amazing. Then Alan's production of Desire Under the Elms, and an extraordinary acting company. There were 45, I believe, members of the professional acting company.
Yeah.
And each of them were in a number of the shows over the course of the year. So the first year was watching the Geary. The second year, half of my class went into Jack O'Brien's production of Man and Superman, and another half, the half that I was in, went into Alan Fletcher's production of Othello, with Daniel Davis as Iago and John Hancock as Othello, Deborah May as...
Oh, Deborah May. I worked with Deborah May, yeah.
And talk about my learning experience. Much of what I learned and much of the actor that I've became was based on working with extraordinary actors. And the most memorable at that point was watching Daniel Davis play Iago. And standing across the stage, I was Brabantio's servant and Cypriot soldier, as one is, at that point. And I was holding my lantern. We were searching for Iago, for Othello, in the early part of the play. And I was standing about 20 feet away from Danny and going, oh my God. And the power and it's hard to describe, but the radiance and the power and the intelligence and the charisma, and just looking at him and going, oh, that. And it's those oh, that moments over the course of my career as I was growing through the profession that I would say, somehow that is the real thing. And how do I do that?
How do I do that?
So,
well, I think you figured that out. And I think there are many people that now stand on stage with you and point to you and say, how do I do that? I know that's true.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we should leave San Francisco now and move on. Where did we go after ACT? We went back to New York.
Back to New York in, let's see, that was 76. And between 76 and 88, I was working as an actor in New York. A lot of regional theaters. You listed a number of them there. Working pretty steadily. Some shows in New York. First thing that it happened almost immediately in 77 was the CSC Repertory Company. And this was, when I was in high school, I used to take the subway, a bus to the subway and then into the city to see CSC Repertory. And this would have been 69, 70, 71. When they were in a small, old converted shoe warehouse on West 3rd Street.
Oh, wow. And
Christopher Martin and his company, Paris Lasqui and a number of others, and a company of about 12. And talk about the forming of my early ideas about theater with this company of 12 in what was essentially a bare room. I saw there an uncut Hamlet, an uncut Man and Superman, a 4-hour Moby Dick, Marat Sade, Anui's Poor Beatos, just extraordinary acting, and all done with with some chairs and some platforms and actors in the space. And Chris himself, who is an extraordinarily powerful actor, and he's a wonderful director. And when I came back to New York, they had moved up to the Abbey Theater on 13th Street. I auditioned, and lo and behold, I was accepted into the company. And it was again 12, roughly, there were about 12 of us. And my dear friend, Noble Shropshire, who has gone on to, he was in Playmakers back in the early 90s, but he works all the time. He was in the...
You sure? Because you're not muted.
Sorry? Oh, are we good? We good? And so our first year at CSC, I believe the rep was Midsummer Night's Dream, Ibsen's Rosmer's Home, John Arden's Sergeant Graves' Dance, The Maids, The Rover, late 18th century play, and then The Mad Woman of Shire.
Wow.
And
that was all in one season?
All in one season. And and in rep, it was in rep.
Right.
And the next year we did Richard II, Henry IV I, Henry IV II, and other things. So anyway, so when I went back to New York, that was what I went right into, was 2 seasons at CSC rep, which was extraordinary. And then after that was I started working regionally at the American Shakespeare Theater, where I used to take the bus in high school to go see. Then I was cast by Gerald Friedman, who only recently passed away.
Right.
And we did Twelfth Night, Julius Caesar, and The Tempest. That summer of '79.
My gosh. You were cooking with fire, right? So, out of the bat. I mean, that's crazy. I wonder if careers ever start out like that now. You know what I mean? That's like...
Well, it's hard. And I've heard Sir Ian McKellen and the great British actors talk about how they would have done their 3 or 5 years in rep in Birmingham, Manchester, and how that is not, that's not available to the young actors anymore. And,
right. Yeah.
It's not so much anymore here.
Right.
It still is in some places. Think of Ashland, think of American Players. To some degree, that is the experience we try to give our MFA students at Playmakers, and give them 3 years of working with a professional company on stage with professional actors and directors, really quite, especially the directors and the designers who come in from New York, and our resident designers who are as good as anybody in the country. So we do our best to recreate that experience.
It's hard though, because there's really no repertory stuff happening much anymore. And then places like OSF and whatnot, they're so professional. So like if you're still in a program, if you're an MFA candidate, there are programs where you maybe get on stage once before you get your MFA.
That's correct.
That's hard. So to be able to be hired, at least in a company like that, like Classic Stage, where you can just keep working and working and working. I mean, it was an extraordinary time in that way. Yeah.
And I was willing to travel, really willing to travel anywhere for the work.
Yeah.
And back in those days, and it may still be this way as well, if you were looking to advance your career, it really helped to stay in Manhattan. And I always went, and by advance the career, I mean moving into films and television and all of that. I always went where the work was, because my love was in the work, and my love was in great plays. Mm-hmm. And there were some extraordinary experiences, like going to Seattle Rep in 1982 to do Adolphus Cousins in Major Barbara, directed by Dan Sullivan, while he was still artistic director of Seattle Rep, and with Kate Mulgrew playing Major Barbara.
Whoa!
I mean, hello. so it was those kinds of experiences that I was so fortunate, so blessed to come across. And to go back to the travelogue, that kind of work continued all the way through to about '88. I did a lot of work at Cincinnati Playhouse in the Park, which I love. Had wonderful times there, and really all over, and a number of things in New York City as well. As you said, a lot of soap opera work, which one did back in those days.
Yeah.
And it was ready, plentiful, and you could.
Oh yeah, and you can pay your bills, you pay your rent.
That's it.
Okay,
And,
there's
go ahead.
one question from someone who's watching.
Sure.
Did you ever reach out to someone you didn't know and wanted to work with when you were starting out? How did you start that conversation and how did it go?
Well, it's an excellent question, and I certainly endorse the practice. I can't remember a time when I did that. What I did do was audition, and I would take every opportunity to audition. But let me answer the question. If one wishes to do that, I think it's a great idea. Go ahead and make contact. If it's somebody working very high up, you might have to go through their agency. But my experience has been that people are remarkably receptive to that kind of overture. That almost everybody is eager to be of help, to offer advice, and so I would endorse anyone out there who is looking to reach out to someone to do that, and it's a great way.
I think so, and I think methods of communication have changed a lot. You know, it's probably easier to track people down now just because we have the internet and we have.
For sure.
And I don't know, people seem to be pretty open, but yeah, because, you know, you talked about building your network, you know, that inverted pyramid, and that's the truth. It's everything.
Right.
Business is who you know, and I don't think that's changed at all in all these decades.
That's right.
All right, so you were kind of kicking around New York, and then you'd go out of town to work as well, and then you'd come back to New York, yeah?
Right.
And so did you have to ever have a day job to support yourself, or were you fortunate enough to just act your way through life? Like what
No,
like?
I often had a day job. I worked for 2 different communications companies doing office work. Thank you, Suzanne Jeffers. Thank you, Connie Steensma, my 2 wonderful, very understanding bosses back in the day. And I also worked with, this is interesting, I worked with my agent's husband renovating apartments. So I remember doing a show at, I was doing Sarcophagus. It was back in before the wall fell, so it was a Soviet play about Chernobyl. This was a Yale rep.
Okay.
And we'd finish the show at around 11. I'd get the last train back to New York. And I was living in Bay Ridge at the time, so I'd get into Grand Central around about 12:30 or so. I'd get home around 2, get up, and I would meet John on the work site at around 10, and I'd work with him till about 4. Then I'd go back to Grand Central, get on the train, go up to New Haven, and do that really all week. So, so it was a combination of office work and renovating apartments. Yeah.
And how long did that go on for? How many years?
Oh, I'd say anytime I was in New York, I was picking up side work. On both of the office jobs, I would go and they would, give me leave to go, and then I'd come back and I'd pick right up.
Yeah. Wow.
For sure.
All right. And so then we come to 1982. How did you get cast in Macbeth with
Okay.
Nicole Williamson?
Right?
Did this production of Macbeth
Yep.
at Circle in the Square.
That is
And
correct.
he played Macbeth and he directed himself.
Yes, he had. And Nick had, he had previously done the production in London, directed by
Right.
Tony Richardson, I believe. And he brought it to New York. I was actually in the CSC company doing the Peer Gynt at that time.
Okay. I thought Macbeth came first. Okay, so Peer Gynt.
No, right. That was a very eventful year.
Oh,
But
yeah,
we
it
did
sure
that.
was.
And the casting director, Kathy Plasick was her name. I got a call, probably through my agent. Would I audition for Nicole Williamson for Macbeth? And yes, I would. So I went in, and my memory of it was that the audition was terrific. I've always, for whatever reason, I've always had good luck when I've auditioned for British directors. And I'm going to make an exception of John Dexter. That's a whole other story.
Okay.
But the audition with Nick went very well, and I was cast in the show. And one of the most difficult things I've ever done was to go to Chris Martin and tell him that I had to leave the CSC company, or let's be right, that I was choosing to leave the CSC company to take this opportunity to do Macbeth with Nicole at Circle in the Square. Mm. And there was, rightfully, Chris was, it didn't sit so well with him. But fortunately, my dear friend Nicole, Noble Shropshire, had been on leave with the company, and he was coming back in, and he took my slot of roles at CSC. And then I went and we started working and rehearsing with Nick, and it was that was another one of those moments where watching him work. He's passed away now, but he was extraordinary. The way his text worked, it was as clear and effortless, and yet he was volcanic in his power when he wanted to be. Mm. And so smart. And just another one of those inspirations.
So I'm sure you learned a lot just
yes,
being with him. Ray, do you ever read your reviews? Do you ever read reviews?
I do.
Okay. I don't want to embarrass you, but I'm gonna. No, I'm kidding. This Macbeth production,
yep.
The New York Times did not like it.
No.
Which is hard to believe, right? Isn't it hard?
That's Frank writing, right? Frank Rich?
No, this was Walter Kerr.
Oh, okay.
Walter Kerr. But I just, who cares? But anyway, he did not like it. But there's one sentence in the review. I mean, the whole review, he was trashing Williamson. And then you get to the end and it says, Ray Dooley is best of all as Malcolm, possessed of rapid-fire speech and an even nimbler mind. He loved you. He did not care for the production, but he sure liked you.
Oh, well, thank you for that. That's awfully nice.
So before that came Peer Gynt.
Right.
Tell us quickly about how that came to pass.
Oh, well.
That must have been quite a marathon because it was 2 parts, right?
Yes, and I really should go back to ACT, because the second show I was in on the Geary stage was Alan Fletcher's production of Peer Gynt, or Peer Gynt, as it would be pronounced. Right. And Daniel Davis playing Peer, Joy Carlin playing Osa. I and my classmates were playing, Sheep, Rocks, Party Guests, Asylum, about 20 different things, because it was a storytelling kind of production. And it was brilliant. And at ACT, Alan had done his own translation. And we did it in 4 hours and 20 minutes on one night. Chris decided to do the Ralph Fieldi translation. And we broke it over 2 nights. And Chris's idea was that we had 4 actors who played Peer Gynt. Pat Egan started on the first night. And we passed off 4 actors of 1, 2, 3, 4. I was number 4. So I did the amazing scene where Peer takes his mother on a sleigh ride. I'm going to start weeping here, sorry. And she dies. And he essentially drives her to heaven. Still gets me. And then on the second night, I started the show. And we went 4, 3, 2, 1, and Pat finished the show.
Right.
And the other Peer Gynts all came back as characters that Peer meets late in the show. And I came back as the button molder, the very final encounter that Peer has. And so that was Chris's idea, and it was done on a platform. We had a trap door, maybe. We might have had a chair, maybe not. There was the bed for Osa. Karen Sunde was Osa there. And it was extraordinary. It was actors in a space, and it's the most beautiful story. And a small, I'll add a small footnote. About, oh goodness, it was 2011 maybe, at the Brevard Music Festival in North Carolina. I was asked to go and be the narrator and play about 10 different roles in the full orchestral music by Edvard Grieg, with a 50, or no, it was more than that, 80-piece symphony orchestra, 50 soloists, 50 choir, 6 soloists. And we did, it was a one night there, and it was extraordinary. That story is so deep and so archetypal and so moving that, yeah, as you see, it still has.
Yes, I can tell. And what an extraordinary opportunity to be able to retell the story again, but in a different way, you know, at Brevard. That's so cool. That's really great.
It was wonderful.
Well, so here's your review from your 82 production. The 4 actors who play Peer, Patrick Egan, David Aston Reese, Tom Spackman, and Ray Dooley, are effective performers, and at least one is a great deal more. That's Mr. Dooley, who closes the first part as the outlaw Peer and opens the second part as a cynical slave trader. In both aspects, the actor has a feverish intensity that seems definably Gyntian.
Well, thank you.
Tabby.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Yeah.
You won the Obie that year for it.
Yes.
And I'll have you know, because you won the Obie in 1982 for your performance, you are now 1 degree of separation
from Kevin Bacon. Right. Let me see. Do I recall? Was it Orphans that he was in?
40 Deuce and Poor Little Lambs.
That's right. 40 Deuce. Right. Yes.
Tony Toon that year for Cloud 9, and A Soldier's Play won for Best Ensemble.
How about that? And our
And
our good friend Alphonse is there now.
Yes. I keep having weird things about A Soldier's Play. When I was in LA a couple months ago, this friend of mine in LA dug up her old program from the 1984 Olympics, where we all worked at the Arts Festival. And guess what was playing then? Oops, we were there. We had the ticket stub and everything. It cost like $10 to go. Anyway.
It's a great play.
All right. So that's that. And then we moved on. So what made you want to leave New York?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you know, Susannah, what it was every the work was great, and I worked steadily. Every time I would come back to New York from a regional theater, I would be starting at the same place. And I'd been doing it for then, what, 12 years? And I just felt, okay, time for something else. And I've always been happiest as a member of a company. And this goes back to the ACT to CSC rep. And an opportunity came up to go to the Alabama Shakespeare Festival in 1980, spring of 88. And I went down, and that was the one year that they weren't in rep. And so I did a production there, and that went well. And Martin Platt, who was the founding artistic director of Alabama Shakespeare, who became one of my greatest friends and a mentor in many ways. He asked if I'd like to come back the next year, the 88, 89 fall to summer season. And it was four shows in rep that we did. So I said, yes, I would. And I thought that, okay, this is it. And I said, I'm going to go down and join the Shakespeare Festival. Wonderful, wonderful actors there. Greg Thornton, Greta Lambert, David Harum. Oh my God, so many wonderful actors in that company. And we did the year, and during the course of that year, it became evident that Martin was going to leave at the end of that year. And most of us stepped away at that point. And that's when I was on my way back to New York. And David Hammond and I, who had been my teacher at ACT and was now artistic director at Playmakers.
Right.
We had talked about the previous season, but I wasn't mobile. And I reached out and I said, David, I'm heading back to New York. And he said, why don't you come and do a season with us on your way? So I said, sure. And so I drove. I was so sure that I was going to be in Alabama that I actually bought a pickup truck down there. And not because it was Alabama, the pickup truck. No, I always wanted a pickup truck. So by then, I drove to Chapel Hill, and I arrived in early August and put all of my things in storage here, and then drove off and did some summer job and came back. No, I guess there wouldn't have been time. I just went up and visited family and came back. And we started in at Playmakers, and here we are.
Was that Cherry Orchard? Was that your first show?
It was. I was playing Lepaki in the Cherry Orchard. David Hammond's production. It was really quite a fine production.
And then did you join the faculty right away? When did that happen?
Yeah, in January of that year, Millie Barringer, who is responsible for so many, really responsible for the administrative model that has allowed Playmakers to thrive. Millie asked if I would like to teach the first year graduate scene study class in the second semester.
Okay.
So that's the first time I've done workshops for other places I've been, but that's the first time I had a sustained arc of a semester's worth of work.
And so that was the first time you were teaching, right? Like
in a sustained way, yes.
Yeah.
In the spring of 1990. And that worked out. And then Millie asked if I'd like to stay on with a visiting appointment for a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yes, I would. And so I did that. Then there was another visiting appointment for a year. And then I formally joined the faculty in, what was that, 92, I guess.
Well, how did you know you would be such a phenomenal teacher, Ray? Was that something you always wanted to do? Or did you feel like you had a calling to do it? Because, you're so revered by your students. And I understand why. Just the little bit that I've studied with you, I understand that. But like, where did your gift come from?
Thank you for asking. That's a very kind question. it comes from having been a student. It comes from knowing how hard Joe Hodge used to say, it is so hard to be any good at all at what we do. And yeah, that's true. And so recognizing that and being out, and this was the great model at ACT, is you were learning from your teachers. And so the teachers had to walk the walk as well as talk the talk. And so I approached it trying to do the best job I could. And Tim and Emily and Eve and Steve, I've gotten better since 1990. Thank you for being my first class. And it's, you know, it's different. Teaching is different than acting. Teaching acting is different than acting. And it's learning that difference that's key. But there's a certain, you have to blend empathy with rigor, I guess, is what I would say. And compassion for how hard the work is, but also knowing how important the work is and what we're doing, and a love of the craft.
Yeah.
And as I've gotten to this point in my career, especially, the love of the craft and passing it on to the next generation of actors is what's become most important to me. I've been looking for opportunities to do that, and I've been teaching out of Light Stage Company, teaching privately there with Estes Tarver as well, and finding that very, very rewarding. And I just try to keep getting better. And
yeah. All right, I'm going to flash through some photos real fast.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. Who's that? Oh, is that from a number?
I'm not seeing it on my screen.
Oh, you're not?
No, I think I've been bounced out of the meeting.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
You see me?
No, all I see is let's try return to meeting. I think there you are. Hi.
Okay. Let's see if I can try this one more time, okay?
All right.
Try one more. See if it'll work. Do you see that photo?
That is a number. Yes, and that's Josh playing. Josh had the hard role. He had to play himself and two clones of himself.
Right.
Josh
I love
Bell.
that show.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's one of the ones
Extraordinary.
that I really love. I loved doing that show.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Jan Chambers, terrific. Oh, there we are.
Oh.
That was Puck.
That was Puck.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can get Puck back. Look at you.
Yes. Yep, that was extraordinary. Shauna Cooper directing, Zach Fine playing Oberon.
Mm-hmm.
And wonderful. Yeah. It was a gorgeous production.
I know, it really was. Okay, I'll try to be fast. Oh, this is interesting to me.
Oh, well.
There she is.
Yeah,
that was a great production.
The one and only.
Mm-hmm.
Love Julie and miss her so much. She's doing great out in Santa Barbara. Yeah, that was, of course, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget. We would be standing backstage before our first entrance, and we'd look at each other and say, let's just get on stage and it'll be all right. Because the first act of that was longer than some whole plays. And then, of course, there were two more acts to follow.
It's a marathon. It's huge. It's everything. I think the world of her. She's at my old alma mater now. That's where I got my BFA.
Oh, wonderful.
I sure wish she'd been there when I was there.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a great school, though, Santa Barbara. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I loved you so much in this.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Seminar. That was one of those plays that I read the script and I said, I know this guy. And it tapped into so many things that it was a great fit
Yes.
He had a little bit of a different method of teaching than I did.
A little bit.
Able to tap.
You were extraordinary.
Well, thank you. It was a gift. That role is a gift. And those are four wonderful students: Miles on the right, Carrie, Allison, and Skylar. Just four wonderful graduate students.
Yeah.
And to be able to do that show with them, and all of them are extraordinary actors in their own right now, and they're all doing so well.
That's great.
So anyway. Yeah.
Okay. And I'll just flash one more real fast because I really, really enjoyed your Christmas Carol.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
And that wasn't the first was that 2017, I think? Is that right? 2017?
It might have been 2018. We could
Okay.
tell, let me see, it was 19. No, it would have been 17. I had first done it in the Paul Green Theater in 1998. Is that right?
Yep, that's right.
And it was 19 years later. And
Did the production change very much in those 19 years?
well, it did. The first production, of course, was in the larger theater. So that was one accommodation. We have to change performance based on the size of the room that we're in, of course.
Right.
And McKay Coble had done the design in the original production. Gorgeous period clothing, just wonderful. And a beautiful set that filled Paul Green without completely dwarfing me. But we were moving into the Keenan, the Elizabeth Price Keenan Theater, and Mikey Perlman was directing. And Jan Chambers again on the set. And we had the luxury of talking about it. I say, well, who is this guy? And what's he doing?
Yeah.
And why is he here? What's the point? And we talked it through, and I was able to bring something to this. And you see Bobby Owen designed the costumes, and a beautiful, functional, present day kind of clothing. We modeled the production. Sometimes I go and do a one-person show at venues around the area. And when I go, I wear a shirt and tie and a certain kind of Rockport shoe and dark pants. And I usually have dinner beforehand, maybe with the folks. And so for this production, Bobby heard what I was saying, and she designed beautiful clothing. Again, very functional and beautiful clothing. We had an open platform, and I would go out and get a cup of coffee. I would leave my dressing room, and I'd walk out to the
lobby.
To the lobby and get a cup of coffee.
I know, it was fabulous. It was great.
And
you were with everyone.
Right, and it was like we're all here together, and then Emily, the assistant stage manager, would give me the high sign, hand me the book, and it was like, oh, it's time to start. And we'd start, but it was a seamless flow.
Yeah.
And it was something that I brought from my own life that seamlessly then went into the production, which was, I thought it worked, at least from my perspective, where I was.
Oh, it did. It did from the audience's perspective too. And it was physically challenging too. There's a lot of movement in it, and
yes.
My gosh, I must have been exhausted by the end. It was a wonderful trip. It was great.
Thank you.
I love it. Hope that you bring it back. All right. Well, I just have a couple more questions of Playmakers, and or you know what? It doesn't. Well, okay. So there's two shows real fast at Playmakers. Can you tell us anything? Do you have any memory of these two shows? The first one is in 1997, The Death of Papa.
Oh yes.
Horton Foote.
Horton Foote.
But listen to this cast: Matthew Broderick, Ellen Burstyn, Hallie Foote, Polly Holiday,
Yep.
Ray Dooley. What was it?
Oh,
there's
there's
people to Playmakers.
there's at that point it was bringing in some extraordinary actors. Judd Hirsch, Eva Marie Saint.
Yes, that was Death of a Salesman.
Right, that was Death of a
Oh
Salesman,
my God.
right? Uh, Kathleen Widows for Masterclass. I mean, amazing. Anyway, for this show, a couple of, if we have time, Matthew was such a great colleague. He blew, I guess we'd say he blew out his knee playing racquetball the first week, and spent 2 weeks, of at least a week, but probably 2 weeks in a cast at the side of the stage while his understudy walked and he spoke. But did he leave? Did he go back to New York? No, he stayed and he saw it through.
Oh my God.
Because his father and Horton had been quite close.
Yeah.
And anyway, Matthew was, what just respect, tip of the cap, extraordinary, and what a nice man as well. And then Ellen, here's a great story for actors. Ellen was playing the head of the family, and she adored her ex-husband. I'm sorry, she adored her ex-husband in the sense that he had died. She was a widow. And she had on her desk, there was a desk there, her business desk, and it was supposed to be a picture of her ex-husband. And the person whose picture was there was Lee Strasberg, who she had studied with,
Right.
of course,
Yes.
famously. And, But here's the kicker. So she would look at that picture, and that was one of her ways of acting the role. Halfway through the run, she changed out that picture of Lee for a different picture of Lee. Somehow that first picture had lost, to use Larry Moss's term, the carbonation,
Right.
and she replaced it with a different.
What will get her there? Yeah.
Well, exactly.
That's so
And
cool.
I've never forgotten that.
That's a great lesson, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
And,
Wow.
So yes, and it was, it was an extraordinary experience. And Horton was here for most of it
Oh.
as well.
Were you hanging out with them? Like, after
yeah.
rehearsal, did you go get a beer and stuff like that?
Yes. It was, that was it. Ray Verda, wonderful actor. Ray Verda played Hallie's husband. So yes, it was an extraordinary time. It truly was.
That's fantastic. Well, all right. So I had a question for you.
Yep.
Is there any role you've ever played that you wish you could go back and try again? Like, maybe you've had more experience under your belt now. You're like, oh, that's what it was. Do you have any moments like that?
Yeah. The one that comes to mind that it was a draw at best was Leontes in The Winter's Tale, and that would have been 94. And I was trying too hard. I tried too hard, and I would know better now. I would let the play do the work for me. But it's such a fraught role. He's consumed with jealousy.
Oh yes.
At the beginning of it.
Yeah.
And
I played the Queen in that in my senior year.
Oh, wonderful! Oh, that's a great role for you. Oh, yeah.
It was great, and it was the first time the head of the acting program praised me and didn't have anything negative to say, and I almost wept because
sweet. That's so sweet.
His job was to cut down.
Yeah.
That was his job.
Yeah.
That was his job. And so when he said something nice to me, finally, I just, oh my God. Okay. That's my takeaway, The Winter's Tale. Okay. Do you have a bucket list role?
Boy, I've been so blessed, Susannah. I remember Cherry Jones talking once, and she said that what she loved to do were the really, really, really hard things. And I'm in her court on that. I love the plays of Friel,
Mhm.
and his play Faith Healer is one that I saw Ralph Fiennes and Cherry Jones and Ian Trigger, Ian, forgive me, in New York, doing that, and that's one. It's told in monologues. That's one that's out there.
Mm.
But you know, the best experiences I've had usually are surprises. Things like
Yeah.
a number,
Yeah.
an Iliad, the ones that have come out of the blue. Seminar was that way. Opus, Not About Heroes. Those kinds of things.
Surprises. I mean, like you knew they would be good roles, but you didn't know they'd be that rich for you, or that challenging, or that memorable, or that you'd be that grateful that you got to see them.
Right. So I really am. I love being surprised and then discovering
Yeah.
that, oh, this is something. So,
Yeah.
but I'm moving into a new phase in terms of what I'm writing for, and there's a whole series of roles for now. Older, or as I say, an aging character man. So we'll see what's out there.
Yeah. Well, we can't wait to see what you do. What's
Okay.
on the horizon? What do you have plans beyond your retirement yet, or?
The retirement is from the university, and it is truly time that I step away, and I hope to. It'll be 2 more years of phased retirement, and I've structured it and been fortunate to have been allowed to structure it so that I have 2 more classes of graduate students for the semester of Shakespeare coming up in the fall, and then the following fall. Mm-hmm. In my free time, as I said, I've been teaching out of Moonlight Stage Company in Raleigh, because I'm trying to find ways of passing on what I know, and then down the road, we'll see. I hope I'll continue to work at Playmakers.
Yeah.
I hope to work at other theaters elsewhere.
We work at Honest Pint.
Ask me, please. Yes, I heard David talking about two Shakespearean actors, the play that he loves. And as it happens, I saw a dress rehearsal of the show. No, it was a preview of the show in New York. Jack O'Brien directed it. And Richard Nelson, the playwright, we went to college together at different times. But David's right; it's an extraordinary production. And so, if we could gather 40 of our best friends, it would we could do something with that.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you heard it here. We'll work on that. Okay, so we do have to wrap it up pretty soon, but now I'm going to get to the lightning round. Okay.
Okay.
This is your Proust questionnaire.
Okay.
Remembrance of things past.
Madeleines.
Plus a few questions of my own that I've thrown in. You ready?
Yes.
What's something that people often get wrong about you?
That I'm somehow stern or cranky, and I'm really just shy. Yeah. And yeah.
What's the last show you binge watched and loved?
Okay, here's the big confession. I don't watch television.
At all?
Pretty much.
Netflix?
No.
Oh, Ray. All right.
Yeah, sorry.
You're just reading during this entire quarantine period? Just reading?
Doing a lot of reading, but
what are you reading? You have a book club, I know that.
We have 2 large dogs, and they take up a lot of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, do you have a favorite movie?
Dr. Strangelove.
All right. What's your favorite meal?
Wow. I will say that my dear wife and I are crazy about the crab and shrimp cakes at Jujube.
Oh, yum. Geez, we didn't even talk about your wife and stuff, your personal life. Well, we'll do that next time. All right. What's your idea of perfect happiness?
Oh, sitting on my porch with the dogs out in the yard, playing guitar, glass of red wine as the sun is going down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. What's your greatest fear?
Well, I think I'll join in most actors and say that that I'm an imposter.
Mm-hmm. You're not, but I understand.
Yeah, well, thanks, but yeah.
Which living person do you most admire?
Oh, boy. Wow. Oh, boy, I mean, there's so many. Can I cheat and pick someone who isn't living? I was going to say Ken Strong, my dear colleague. Living person. I don't know. Everybody I work with at Playmakers, all of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're extraordinary, and
Yeah.
I would, it's take a bullet for a time. Yeah.
What's the trait you most deplore in yourself?
Whew. Wow. I would say reticence in my personal life.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. What is your favorite journey?
Again, at the risk of, I'll just say it, getting up in the morning and coming into the kitchen.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. What's your biggest regret?
Ooh. I'll tell you, I've been so blessed. Well, there's a couple of things in my past that I don't want to talk about.
That's fine.
So, but I've just touched them, and thank you.
Okay.
I got it.
Okay. Who or what is the greatest love of your life?
Oh, well, my dear wife, Rebecca, who we're
When
about
did
to
you guys get married?
celebrate our 26th anniversary. We met opening night of the first time Playmakers did 12th night, and we spoke in the lobby at the opening night reception about the poetry of John Keats. Rebecca, a John Keats scholar, and I had been an English major at college, and so, I could hold my own.
That's a meet cute if there ever was one.
Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
Anyway, yes,
Okay.
she's amazing, yeah.
What do you regard as the lowest depth of misery?
Yeah. Well, I'll pick a theatrical one. Missing that I've ever missed an entrance. Maybe once.
Have you ever missed an entrance?
It was just one time in. It was in what was it, Pericles or a Dickens play, where I had two offstage crosses, and in one I changed my costume, and in one I didn't. And I was doing the one where I didn't, but I forgot where I was, and I started to change my costume, and I couldn't get back into costume and get on stage on time.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh.
So anyway, that feels pretty bad. Yeah.
Okay. Who are your favorite heroes of fiction?
Wow. Well, I got caught up in the Jack Aubrey novels of Patrick O'Brian. I read all 23 or 4, however many there are. So that, for sure, I think I'll go with that. Those, both Jack and Stephen, in the two leading characters in those novels. Yeah.
You have any heroes in real life?
Well, sure, and we'll drop in for a second. All the medical people and the essential workers who are out there right now,
Yeah.
keeping it together, so that I hope the rest of us here, when the time is right, can do our work in bringing everybody back together. But for sure, all the medical people and the postmen and the grocery workers and everybody who's
Amen.
out there working.
My son's a grocery worker, so.
Okay. Yeah.
And Ray, what is your motto?
Well, I would say show up. Yeah. That's the essence of it.
Of life, right?
Yeah.
In every aspect.
Yeah.
I agree. All right, sir.
Oh, thank you, Susannah.
Salute.
Oh,
Thank you.
to the honest pie.
Ray.
Salute.
I love this. I feel like we had the opportunity to sit in on a master class with both of you. So lovely. Thank you so much. I have one last question, and I'm going to pose this to both of you because you've both been working professionals and you both have navigated really lovely careers. There are so many, and I know your son is facing this, Susannah, so many seniors in high school and so many seniors in college whose senior years have now been kind of cut short. And the ones in high school on so many of these chats have asked of our guests, how do they make all of these choices they have to make, particularly if they want to go to a performing arts school, and as far as auditioning and making selections of programs when right now they don't even have the opportunity to visit a campus. So any advice for the high school seniors? And then Susannah, you can speak from personal experience. Any advice for the college seniors?
Well, I would say, okay, I'm going to answer this like a mom first. If it doesn't feel right in your bones right now, don't make any decisions right now. Like, we've just decided, like with our son who's graduating from college, his BFA in theater, and he had plans to launch himself, into the great unknown. It's really okay to press pause right now, because I think that any big plans we may have are off the table, and that's very hard to accept. I understand that, but we don't know what's happening. Like every day we wake up and we don't know what happened overnight or what's going to happen today. And so we're living in this state of flux, and we have to be okay with that. And it brings up a lot of big feelings. And it's not good to make big decisions when you have big feelings and things that are unresolved. And for us, we're just not putting any pressure on our son at all right now. I thought he'd be going away and living on his own, and I would have an empty nest again, and that's not going to happen. And it may not happen for many months. It may not happen for a year, and that's okay. We all have to adjust to what is reality right now, and that's okay. I think, this is affording us a really good opportunity to do a lot of research. If nothing else, we can look at all the programs and all the schools and kind of see what's best for us, for our student, and people can make choices like that. And then if you are launching out of your program now and you thought you were going to go be a professional actor or director or playwright or something, you can still do all those things, but you have to adjust to doing them online now. And we were talking a little bit about this before we went live, about how we now have to become masters of the technology.
That's right.
because a lot of this stuff is going to be done online now, not in a room and not in a live theater. So, and we don't know what's going to happen to the industry when this is over, and we don't even know when that's going to ever happen, but we have to adjust. Adjust is the word of the moment. And that's all I have. I wish I had better answers, but I don't.
No, I love that answer, actually. I think it's a perfect answer. Ray, what do you think for the high school students looking at undergraduate programs?
Mm-hmm. Well, if it's in theater, the first question is it do you want a BFA program or a BA program? The BFA is for the student who absolutely is sure that there's nothing else that they want to do, and they're going right in and becoming a professional. If a student is interested in something else or other things, then quality BA program that then would lead to specialization at the graduate level might be the way to go. Always, you want to be thinking about student debt. You want to be concerned with that, not burdening yourself too much, if at all. And the feeling has to be right. Can you get a sense of the campus? Can you get a sense of the people you'll be working with? And particularly for the graduate level, if you're coming out of college and going to a graduate program in theater, talk to the current students, talk to the alumni, talk with the faculty. Do you get a good feeling from them? Are they people that seem to understand who you are and take an interest in you?
And I would think that now probably affords you a chance to really have real conversations with these people, because they're not doing anything like, you know what I mean? Their jobs are on hold right now at the institution. So you probably could get at least a phone call with faculty or I don't know, but other people in the administration that maybe you maybe would not have had an opportunity to have those conversations under normal circumstances.
Right. And I would say too, I totally, and Lauren, at such time as the audition is coming around, it really helps get the best coach that you can. Somebody who's worked professionally or who has some experience and can really help you shape and perfect that audition. Yeah.
Definitely. That's so important. That's really important, right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you both so much. This was so informative. Ray, I know a lot of your Playmakers family is on watching this. Steve said, thank you for so many terrific performances at Playmakers Rep over the years. 100 performances, over 100 performances. Dairyland, right. You celebrated your 100.
That's right. And then Ragtime was 101.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. And thank you, Susannah.
Welcome.
I'm excited to see what happens at Playmakers and Honest Pint. I enjoy going to see both those shows. Susannah, The Herd broke my heart as a mom. Couldn't even write a review of that one. And I actually saw Ragtime twice, Ray. I came once as a reviewer, but then I brought my sister-in-law and brother-in-law to see it, and they enjoyed it immensely. So we're very lucky to have such great theater in this area.
We are, and I think it's getting better all the time.
Yes, I just support all the local theater you can, because we got to come out of this in shape so we can tell our stories about this extraordinary time. I think a lot of really great art's going to happen next year when this is through, if it's ever through. I don't know, but don't you think good stories are coming? And so we really need to support each other so that we can stick around and tell those stories.
Yeah, I agree, Susannah. Very.
So